Hi everyone. Now, my last video I ended the cycle of just discussing some advantages, strengths of ADHD because, good starting point, to be honest, just because it's good to point out that there are actually advantages and there are strengths, just to immediately dissuade the misconception that it's all disadvantage and difficulties. However, that is an important topic to cover, so I'm going to be gliding into that. But first, I want to talk about, in the next couple of videos, basically the typical behavioral patterns and symptoms of ADHD that you'll see in adulthood. And the reason why I say in adulthood and not just in general is because it's, as you get older and you have ADHD, you tend to develop methods, strategies of basically trying to disguise or suppress some of the more distracting or more hindering symptoms and behavioral patterns of having ADHD. When you're a kid, however, you don't. You might not even have been diagnosed. And the thing is with ADHD, because it's so based on like hyperactivity and inattention, but when you're a kid, it's very common for kids to, in general, to not pay attention to things or to be super hyperactive, depending on how young or old they are. And maybe that's why it's so easy to miss it in childhood, and lots of people don't actually get diagnosed or realize they have it until adulthood. But again, growing awareness means more people are picking up on it earlier on, which is good. Now, and I just want to point out that yes, ADHD is picked up in childhood. I mean, not the disorder, right? That's, I've said before, that's there from birth. But it's diagnosed or it's spotted by adults, parents, teachers, by doctors, mostly in childhood. And there is this idea that, and there are, I think, I've heard from some people that they seem to believe that it's a disorder that can be almost erased by the time you're an adult, but that's not the case. It's a lifetime disorder, right? So the symptoms and such are still going to be there when you're an adult. You'll just have, like I said, these methods of kind of coping with them. Right, so today, the first one I want to talk about, give me a second, is continuously starting new tasks before finishing old ones. Now, these are behavioral patterns, I'll say, okay? Not just unique traits or anything. These are patterns of behavior that will persist into adulthood, quite probably more visibly than some others might when you were a child. Now, before we get probably into this usual comment of, if you like the content, you want to see more, please follow me, subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a like, comment, questions in the comments, and I will get to them presently. Don't know what happened to me there. Anyway, right. So, yes. Now, as I said, these are all have aspects or elements of inattention, hyperactivity in them. So the first one, continually starting new tasks for finishing old ones, is one I can relate to big time. And that mainly has to do with hyperactive or impulsivity, that aspect of ADHD. Because I kind of explained before, it's almost like your mind's moving a million miles an hour, right? So say now, today I have a story I'm writing, a novel I'm writing, which I am, by the way, and I'll think to myself, right, I gotta finish that. I gotta finish chapter 7 today. I'll start writing chapter 7, but then it'll occur to me, oh, hang on, I did want to start some art videos for, say, TikTok, right? And I'll be like, oh, maybe I'll make a start on that today as well. And I'll just end up adding that task onto what I wanted to do today. Ultimately, the price at the end of the day is, while I've done a bit of both, I haven't done as much on one as I could have done if I just focused on that singular task. Now, it's really common in ADHD for this, think about it with like schoolwork. You start on one piece of homework and then you start on another piece of homework, or you focus on one more than the other. And it's very easy because of that overlapping to kind of get distracted or to accidentally miss things out or not put in as much effort or thought process as you would if you were just focusing on the one thing. However, you can overcome it, usually by writing down a schedule. When I was a kid and I was getting advice on how best to help with my difficulties with ADHD, and this particular thing came up actually, they said a good idea is to write down your own schedule, right? Color code it, make it fancy, make it creative, make it colorful. Just basically don't make it boring, because then it's gonna look like it's work. It's like a schedule. It's like being super formal, and you don't want to do that. So instead, you make it your own. You throw your personality into it, and because you put that effort into it, now this schedule is part of you. And I did that for a long time. It is hard to stick to it still, though. And when you get older, it's more important, I find, to have that kind of schedule, that kind of routine for yourself. But another portion of that is sometimes it'll feel odd sticking to the schedule, and sometimes it'll just mean you have to really, really focus your attention. You have to make a mental effort to focus your attention on the one task at hand and then move on to the next one, alright? Now, a lot of people I know with ADHD tend to be like jack of all trades, and I think a lot of it comes down to this particular aspect, the starting new tasks for finishing old ones, because there's always something new. There's always something new you're doing. There's always something more that you want to do. And you've got to be careful, because while for me, it kind of actually helps me keep my motivation, because I'm always interchanging. I'm not getting bored with one before I decide to finish the other one. Yeah, so it can not necessarily be a bad thing, but also a kind of good thing if you're like me and it helps with your motivation. But you gotta be careful, because you do not want it to overlap everything. You don't want it to pile up into like a mountain of work that then eventually you're just going to see as like an overwhelming amount of labor that you need to do. And when you start seeing like that, you don't want to do any of it at all. So just be careful that you don't get to that point, alright? Otherwise, it's not really a bad thing. But this is something that you'll see in adults with ADHD. It's very typically like in work or in higher education, so in university with deadlines and stuff. And though it may seem to some people outside of the ADHD spectrum, of the autistic spectrum or anything, a bit like, oh no, you're kind of pulling yourself a bit thin there. Sometimes the people with ADHD, it's not bad. It's actually helping them maintain their motivation, because they're always interchanging, they're always doing something new. They're not hell-bent on one, and their attention, because it's going to shift anyway, at least it's shifting to something that they're progressing on, something that they're doing themselves, something that can be productive for their future. So it's a good thing. Now, there we are. That's the first one that we're going to discuss today. And I'm using this book as reference because it words it better than me sometimes. The next thing I'm going to look at is mood swings. Okay? Because that is a big thing in ADHD and autism, actually. Right? And, again, very relatable in my case. So I'll be sharing a bit of my experiences on that one. And if you want to see that, then please, as I said earlier, follow, leave a like, comment, questions in the comments, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I will see you soon. Oh, and any recommendations on anything that you think you want to particularly hear about, tell me that too, and I'll get to it. No problem. Till then, see you. Raindrops fall so soft at night.